Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It seems that all students are seated, so I'll just wait for staff. My name is Ms. Kavish, and I'm one of the orchestra teachers here at OHS, as well as I teach this class, music composition. And so we have about 30 minutes worth of music, of compositions for you to hear today. I'll be navigating the screen and introducing the students, but I will be over by the computer, making sure that you can hear the sounds, the lovely sounds that the students have created. I know many of you have already been here yesterday and today, but just a few reminders. The biggest one is please do keep your cell phones off and away. And then also no food, drink, gum, or candy in the PAC, and keeping your feet on the floor and your hands in the ride at all times. All right, so we're gonna get started. I know we have a lot of music students here today, so I'm not gonna go in depth too much. But you might be wondering, well, what is music composition? And so there are some students that take it for a semester, but most students take it as a year-long course. And so we use Finale music notation software. That is a school-provided software, and we have it actually in a lab in the music wing. We don't use any other platforms. So you might have used Noteflight or MuseScore or Flat.io. We don't use those. We use Finale because technically it's supposed to be the software that if you go to college, that is the software that colleges will use in their music classes. Most of our assignments focus on the basic elements of music: melody, harmony, rhythm, texture, timbre, form, and expression. And so all of their assignments that you're going to hear today stem from those, as well as writing for different ensembles, whether it be string ensembles, woodwind, brass, percussion, and our last assignment will be songwriting for voice. It is a course that can be taken for multiple years. So Carson, you want to wave Carson? Carson, this is his second year, and you can take it for advanced credit. And the syllabus is on a 2-year rotation. So if you did take it for 2 years, you would not have the same assignments for two years. The prerequisites are ability to read music, that is at the very basic level, and that you have played or sang in a music class in the Oregon School District. Basically, you would have had to start playing in like 4th or 5th grade, or singing in choir. What year is choir? Third. Wow, okay, yeah. So basically I have to start in elementary school and have played up until this point. All right, well, let's get started. Because you don't want to just hear me talk. This is not what it's about. All right, so a most recent composition, they had to write a rondo for woodwind quintet. So using that instrumentation. And then rondo is like Legos. It's how it's put together, right? So you have A 3 times. That means that their A melody or A section is repeated the 3 times, and then B is slightly different, and then C is also different. So the first person we're going to listen to is Evan. Evan Case is a senior, and he wrote a rondo for woodwind quintet. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. So firstly, I'm Evan. My main instrument is viola, which is a stringed instrument. So going into this assignment, I had to learn how to write for woodwinds, which is a little bit different from viola because with viola, you don't have to focus on your breathing, but with woodwinds, it's a big part of how you play. So I had to adapt my writing style to accommodate for that. So in the piece, there's all the parts, they jump in and out, and they play off of what others have come before it. So for most of the piece, there's only like 1 or 2 instruments playing at any given time, but throughout the entire piece, and more importantly throughout each individual part, A, B, and C, you can hear the individual voices very clearly, which is what I wanted. So yeah, that's about it.
So we do have one more example of Rondo for Woodwind Quintet by Carson Knott. And this version definitely shows Carson's sense of humor.
She alluded to it, I won't spoil anything, but, so most of what you see will probably appear to be kind of random, and it is, but there's reasoning to it. First of all is that, so I've done this for a year now, and what I've learned is that it is very hard to settle on one idea. So you'll go through, keep revising everything, and then by the time you're done, you have like 5 unfinished ideas that don't go anywhere. So what I decided to do this time was instead just write down everything that came to my mind first and then worry about it later. So that's why it's kind of random, but I'm satisfied with it. The second thing is, you'll find out why later, but just for context, I don't like the oboe. I had to write for it, so hopefully through this piece, people will stop playing oboe. Shame. So, so this is my piece.
So I can appreciate cleverness, and you know, it is clever, and the chord progressions are great, and he's got great melodies, as well as the way he layered the voices. So it actually is a very clever and well done composition. I personally do like the oboe, so I'm just putting that out there. All right. The next thing we're going to move to is an assignment that students had to explore timbre and feelings. So we had what was called a feeling grab bag. Oh no, shoot, I missed one, sorry. Abby Sargent is next, my apologies. We're gonna go to theme and variations next. So theme and variations is another form. As you can see, like the theme is cookies, right? And each cookie is a different variation. So it's still a cookie, but it's a different kind of cookie. And so for this assignment, students had to pick a children's song and then write variations on that children's song. So Abby, do you want to talk a little bit about your piece?
Okay, so as you've probably figured out, comp can get a little wild and wacky sometimes. So I feel like I started off, this is variations on Humpty Dumpty, strange pairings for your omelet. And I started out taking it seriously, and then so my first, you'll hear the theme and then there's 3 variations. And the first variation, I was trying to get a feel for what I was doing and trying to figure out where I wanted to go with it. So I was testing the waters a little bit, and then the last 2 just went kind of crazy. I wanted them to be very reflective of the vibe that is music composition. So the first variation that you'll hear is horror in a minor key. The second variation you'll hear is the internet, and if you think it's funny, that's great, and if you don't, good for you. And the third variation is Hans Zimmer, which is funny to me because from a musical standpoint, I was trying to aim as far from Humpty Dumpty as you could possibly go. So if you don't know who Hans Zimmer is, he's the score composer, the movie score composer, so if you think like Interstellar, Inception, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I hope that it's entertaining.
Again, I appreciate clever, and that was clever and well done. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit in an effort to learn about timbre, or how each instrument has its own voice and its own color of sound. We did a composition based off of a feeling or mood. And so I had these words in a grab bag, and then students just got to pick, and then whatever their word was, they had to write a piece that, and using instrumentation that they thought would support that feeling. One of my students is not here today, so we're going to skip that one, but we are going to go to Alex Hornbacher, who wrote a piece. He picked the word confusion, and he has a really interesting story to tell about this piece.
Okay, so I got confusion. I'm Alex, I play bass, and I didn't get confusion initially. I actually traded it because I had an epiphany when I saw that emotion, and I decided that I wanted to go less for the emotion itself and more of something attached to confusion. And I chose Alzheimer's because my grandma suffered from it until she died. I know, we had laughs. It's a lot more depressing now. But you can yeah, I chose that because it was really close to me, and I just felt like I had some ideas I wanted to put on page, and so for this song, I decided to go more for the idea less than the song itself. So as it progresses, it'll get more and more. So the only thing that will remain consistent is the melody, because I read that patients of Alzheimer's will often, like when they're about to have to remember melodies more than they remember anything else. So everything else in the song, like the harmonies, will change or be just forgotten, but the melody will remain consistent the entire way through, and that's basically it.
Thank you. Even when you're listening to music or if you ever go to an art museum, to read about or learn about what the artist's or composer's intention was, because if you wouldn't have known that story and just listened to that piece, you might have been like, I don't get it, right? But if you have that context and then you listen, you're like, oh, I see, you know? So, next up are, we did, this seemed to be a very popular composition this year. I had the students pick a piece of visual art that they felt inspired by and then write a piece of music that depicted that picture. And so we're going to start with Charles Critch.
Hi, my name is Charles. I'm a violist here at Oregon. And this is my piece, Fishing. As you might be able to tell, it's a photo of a fish. This was drawn by my girlfriend who lives in Mineral Point. And she sent it to me one day when I was working on one of these projects, and I said, well, I gotta make a piece about a picture, so why not choose this? And this is a fish that they just had brought into their home. And I was thinking, well, what does the fish do on a daily basis? Well, they turn on the lights in the morning, and then it kind of explores and runs around like a little play place during the day, and has like trees and little plants and stuff. And then they turn the lights off when it goes to bed, and I said, well, why not make like a little 3-movement piece about it? And I think it really explored melody, which is something that violists, who typically don't do the melody, struggle with a little bit. I've really struggled with creating an impactful melody that captured what I wanted to. And so when thinking about the water, I said, why not give the melody to a harp? And so this is a piece for harp and orchestra. I hope you enjoy it.
All right, so because of time, we're gonna have to just do two more. The next one is by Lee McComb, and I'm gonna have Lee talk about the piece a little bit.
Hey guys. So the project that I'm going to be sharing with you guys is inspired by a painting that was created by Joe Mandrick, and it's titled Cherry Blossoms in the Mist. And I discovered this painting on an art advertising website that was created by him. And this artist in particular loves to paint landscape scenes from like beaches and forests and things like this. Are there any Legend of Zelda fans out there? A few? Okay. So this artist in particular also does paintings that was inspired by Legend of Zelda as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. A question that I was sort of thinking about when I was composing this project was how could we represent pieces of artwork with music? And some things I considered while creating this was the instrumentation of this. And I love Japanese culture. It's very, very dear into my heart. And I wanted to incorporate Japanese instruments into my project. So one of the instruments that you'll hear is a Japanese bamboo flute called the shakuhachi. And another instrument I incorporated was a Japanese harp, which is called the kodo. So you'll hear both of those in the beginning and towards the end of this piece as well. My overall goal for this project was to basically make this painting come to life and maybe inspire others to create something inspired by art as well. So with that being said, please enjoy Cherry Blossoms in the Mist. Thank you.
great, audience. We have one more by Nick Brandenburg, and I'm going to let him start talking about it. If the bell rings, the piece will be done shortly after the bell. But if you have to get up and go, just please do so absolutely quietly, okay? But Nick, go ahead, talk to me.
Yeah, so I did the same project. By the way, I'm Nick. I sing. I'm not very well acquainted with instruments nor composing, so that's why I decided to do this project, because it's less music theory mumbo jumbo and more just kind of putting out what you see. I'm fascinated with World War I, so I wanted to do a piece on that, and I found this painting depicting World War I soldiers after just experiencing a gas attack. And I went for a marching, drudging through the mud kind of feeling throughout the whole piece. You're going to hear a hurdy-gurdy kind of droning the whole time, and other instruments will come in, but they'll eventually get sucked into the same kind of rhythm. And it's meant to represent soldiers kind of losing their individuality throughout war. And there's a point where it'll switch to a major key, and it'll do kind of this big moment, and it's meant to represent a gas attack, and then it'll go right back into the marching because it's the same every day for soldiers. So, yeah.
you.